The Son, El Hijo, by Horacio Quiroga. It is a powerful summer day in Misiones, with all the sun, heat, and calm the season can provide. Nature, completely unbounded, feels satisfied with her. Like the sun, the heat, and atmospheric lull, the father also opens his heart to nature. "Be careful, kid," he says to his son, with that sentence cutting short any discussion of the matter. His son understands perfectly. "Yes, Dad," the child replies, as he grabs his rifle and loads shells into his shirt pockets, which he closes carefully. "Come back at lunchtime," the father says. "Yes, Dad," the boy repeats. He balances the rifle in his hand, smiles at his father, kisses him on the head, and leaves. For a moment his father follows him with his eyes, and then returns to his day's work, happy at his son's joy. He knows that his son, taught from his earliest infancy to be wary of danger, can handle a rifle and hunt anything. The boy is only 13 years old, but quite tall for his age. Yet he seems younger, judging by the purity of his blue eyes, still fresh with childlike surprise. The father does not need to lift his eyes from his work to follow, in his mind's eye, his son's course. He has crossed the red path and headed straight toward the scrubland across from the opening in the Sparta grass. To hunt in the scrubland, the boy hunts for pelts, requires patience beyond his young son's capacity. After crossing that island of scrubland, his son will move along the edge of the cactus growth to the marsh, looking for doves, toucans, or a flock of herons, just like those his friend Juan has discovered so recently. Only now does the trace of a smile appear on the father's face at the memory of the boy's passion for hunting. Sometimes they shoot only a yucaturo or a suracua, and return triumphant. Juan, this ranch, with the 9mm rifle he has just given as a present. His son to the plateau, with the great 16mm quadruple-locked St. Etienne rifle and white powder. He had been just like his son. At 13, he might have given his life to own a rifle. His son at the same age already owned one, and the father smiles. It is not easy, however, for a widowed father, with neither faith nor hope but that for the life of his son, to educate him as he has, free in his short range of action, sure of his little hands and feet since he was 10 years old, aware of the immensity of certain dangers and the limits of his own powers. That father has had to fight hard against what he considers his selfishness. How easily might a child judge wrongly and feel a footing in the emptiness. Then a son is lost. Danger continues to exist for a man at any age, but there is less of a threat if since earliest childhood he is used to relying on nothing but his own powers. The father has raised his son in this belief, and to achieve these ends he has had to resist not only his heart but his moral torment, because that father, weak-stomached and poorly sighted, has suffered hallucinations for a time now. He has seen memories of a happiness that should have risen no farther than the nothingness in which it is confined. Concrete in its distressing illusion, the image of his own son has not escaped his torment. He has seen him stumbling, covered in blood, when the boy struck the workshop forge with a pistol bullet while smoothing over the clasp of his hunting belt. Horrible things, but now, with the ardent and vital summer day, whose love his son seems to have inherited, the father feels happy, tranquil, and sure of the future. In that moment, not far away, a shot rings out. The St. Etienne, thinks the father when he recognizes the blast. 2 fewer doves in the forest. Without paying any more attention to the insignificant event, the father once again becomes absorbed in his work. The sun, already quite high, continues rising. Wherever the eyes fall, on rocks, earth, trees, the air, rarefied as if in an oven, throbs with heat. A deep hum fills the entire being and pervades the surroundings as far as the eye can see, and joins all tropical life at that hour. The father puts an ear to his wrist. Noon. And he raises his eyes toward the scrubland. His son should be on his way back already. With the trust they placed in each other, the silver-templed father and the 13-year-old boy, they no longer deceive themselves. When his son answers, "Yes, Dad, I'll do what you say," he said he would return before 12, and the father smiled when he saw him leave. And he has not returned. The man goes back to his work, forcing himself to concentrate his attention on his task. It is so easy to lose the notion of time inside the woods, to rest motionless for a moment on the forest floor. Suddenly the midday sun, the tropical hum, and the father's heart stop at the same time. He has just begun to think. His son rests. motionless. Time has passed. It's now 12:30. The father leaves his workshop, and when he rests his hand on the mechanic's bench, the pistol shot rises in his memory. In an instant, for the first time in the last 3 hours, he considers that he has heard nothing else since the shot from the Saint Etienne. He has not heard the stony ground moving along under a familiar footstep. His son has not returned, and nature finds herself help up on the edge of the forest, waiting. A single shot has rung out, and that was a while ago. After it, the father had not heard a sound, has seen neither a bird nor a single person, and has not crossed the opening to announce that great misfortune awaits he who crosses the wire fence. Head up and without machete, the father begins to walk. He cuts through the opening of the Sparta grass, enters a scrub, skirts the line of cacti without coming across the smallest trace of his son. But nature continues, motionless, and when the father has covered the hunting paths he knows and explored the swamp in vain, he becomes certain that each step forward is taking him, terribly and inexorably, to his son's dead body. Sadly, he cannot bring reproach on himself, only the cold reality, terrible and consummate. His son has died as he was about to cross. But where? In what part? There are so many fences there, and the scrub is so dirty. Oh, very dirty. How little care he takes not to cross the wires, gun in hand. The father suppresses a scream. He's seen, rising in the air. Oh, he's not your son. And he returns the other side, and the other, and the other. Nothing would be gained by seeing the color of his skin or the anguish in his eyes. The man is not even called to his son, although his heart cries out for him at the top of his lungs. His mouth remains mute. Well, he knows that the act of speaking his name, of crying it aloud, will be confession of his death. Chiquito! Escapes all of a sudden. And if the voice of a man of character is capable of crying, we must cover our ears in mercy before the anguish that sounds in that voice. No one or nothing has responded. Through the sour red of the sun, aged over 10 years, goes the father in search of his son, who has just died. My son! Chiquito mio! He cries out in a diminutive that rises from the depths of his entrails. Before this moment, in the midst of peace and happiness, that father has suffered the hallucination of his son rolling around with his forehead opened by a chrome nickel bullet. Now, in every gloomy corner of the forest, he sees flashings of wire, and at the foot of a pole, with the unloaded rifle by his side, he sees his Chiquito, my son. The forces that allow a poor hallucinating father to step in to the most atrocious nightmare also have a limit, and ours feels that his are escaping him. When he sees all of a sudden a steep side path leading him down to his son, to a 13-year-old boy, is enough to see, at a distance of 50 meters, the expression of his moist-eyed father, without a machete to speed up his step, inside the forest. Chiquito, the man whispers, and exhausted he lets himself fall to the white sand, wrapping his arms around his son's legs. The boy, though tightly held, comes to his feet, and as he understands his father's pain, he slowly caresses his father's head. Poor father! Finally, time has passed. It's already about to be 3. Together the father and the son now begin to return to the house. Didn't you pay attention to the sun to see what time it was? Murmurs the former. I paid attention, Dad, but when I was going to come back I saw Juan's herons and followed them. What you've put me through, Chiquito. Dad, murmurs the boy as well. And after a long silence, and the herons, did you kill them? No. Trivial detail, after all. Under the burning airs, through the treeless opening in the Sparta grass, the man returns home with his son, on whose shoulders, almost as tall as his own, rest the father's happy arms. He returns bathed in sweat, and although he is broken of spirit and of body, he smiles with happiness. He smiles in a hallucinated happiness, for that father goes alone. He has come across no one, and his arm leans on emptiness, because behind him, at the foot of a pole, with his legs raised, tangled in barbed wire, lay his well-beloved son, dead since 10 in the morning.